The Knicks make a trade. Goodbye, Jericho Sims. But are they done? We'll tell you in just a sec on Locked On Knicks.
You are Locked On Knicks, your daily New York Knicks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hey, what's up, guys? Before we get rolling today, I just wanted to mention for about 5 minutes at the start of the second segment, we talk about a potential Mitchell Robinson for Austin Reeves trade. You will hear us realize live that about halfway through the segment, we tried to record late. We tried to time it up correctly. The Los Angeles Lakers went ahead and traded for Mark Williams, and man, it's not to give up Austin Reeves in that trade. So we can assume that that is not going to happen. I just want to mention it for those of you listening, knowing the trade is already happened. We did not know at that moment. Enjoy the show and have a happy trade deadline. Hey, what's up, guys? I'm Gavin Schall, your Saturday host of the Locked On NBA podcast. Boy, did we have a Saturday last week with the Luka Doncic trade, and your favorite play-by-play broadcaster's favorite play-by-play broadcaster. He is Alex Wolfe, editor-in-chief of the Strickland, the greatest Knicks website in the whole wide world. You can check them out on all forms of social media at thestrick.land. If you didn't know, you're about to. This is Locked On Knicks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, your daily podcast on the New York Knicks, giving you the most detailed insight on your favorite team 5 days a week. And be sure to join thousands of other Knicks fans in subscribing on both YouTube and your favorite podcast platform to become an everydayer and get the best insight on your favorite team. We also wanted to remind you, wow, this is big news. Your favorite podcast, it now has a newsletter. Introducing Locked On Knicks daily newsletter, the one-stop shop for ultimate team and league coverage delivered right to your inbox. Sign up for free now at lockedondaily.com. That's lockedondaily.com. And start your day with the all-new free Locked On Knicks newsletter. You get writing from Alex and I, our fantastic team of national writers here at Locked On, and of course, Josh Lloyd with the latest and greatest in fantasy basketball. But guys, it's Super Bowl week. Super Bowl 59 is here, and there's no better way to make every play more exciting than with FanDuel Sportsbook. New customers can bet just $5, and if you win, you'll score $200 in bonus bets. Download the app or head to FanDuel.com to get started. On today's show, we say goodbye to our dear friend, Alex. You loved him. You were crying before we came on. It's tough to say goodbye to Jericho Sims. When we say goodbye, we say hello to Delon Wright. Can he bring anything to the table? We'll tell you if there are any more moves on the way. Could the Knicks actually make a seismic trade? We'll break down the slim possibility of that and then react to some of the other trades around the Eastern Conference, including Chris Middleton heading out of Milwaukee. But of course, we have to start with our guy, Jericho Sims. Goodbye, Mr. Irrelevant, or nearly Mr. Irrelevant. He was traded along with the draft rights of French Olympic legend Matthias Lesor to Milwaukee. The Knicks get back Delon Wright, who I feel old. I was broadcasting his games when he was in college at Utah with Kuzma and Jakob Poeltl. Weird they both got traded the same night. And he's now 32 years old. So that's fun. They get the draft rights to, excuse my pronunciation here, I'm going to guess Hugo Besson and cash considerations. Alex, I previewed it, but what was your reaction to this?
I mean, it was pretty well telegraphed throughout the day, especially the latter parts of the day, that Jericho Sims was going to be on the move to somewhere. Look, I'm not gonna lie. I feel like I have said the sentence or the phrase, like, not to crap on Jericho Sims, but like 40 times this season. So, just purely on what he brings to the basketball court, I'm more excited by the prospect of seeing more Ariel Hukporti going forward. If I'm being completely honest, like, especially after what he's brought the last couple games. Sims, he came in as an older rookie, but seemed like a younger rookie just based off the fact he was pretty raw still. But credit to him. I mean, he is like 26 years old and yet still has, he came into the league at 23 and he's improved himself, I would say, every year. I mean, there's definitely parts of his game that are very, good for a modern NBA player. Being able to be super switchable, especially as a center on defense, can be super valuable to the right team. I think just by virtue of being on the Knicks, that becomes less valuable. So I think, unfortunately, like, he just kind of was in the wrong place for his particular skill set on defense, but offensively, obviously, I've mentioned it a bunch, so I won't do it on the way out, but like, or at least not as much, but he leaves some to be desired on the offensive end. It's mostly just dunks and straight line drives to the hoop. If you can get the ball into his hands and get him just going straight out of a mostly unoccupied paint, he can be pretty dangerous in that regard. Fun dunk contest. I actually did think that he got kind of robbed in that dunk contest. He did the more physically impressive things than anybody else. So if that's his legacy, cool. He joins a long list of Knicks who got robbed in the dunk contest over the years, other than James Flight White, whose crimes will never be forgotten. But anyway, yeah, I'm not heartbroken over losing him. He seems like a good dude, though. Actually, now this is a fun time where I can finally tell the story where I was flying to Phoenix over the summer, and he was on my flight, and I totally thought he got traded that day. I forget where I was thinking that he was getting traded to, or like I assumed Phoenix.
Phoenix, I would assume.
I thought Phoenix, but I'd forget who I thought he was being traded for.
Yeah.
I think it was post Mikal Bridges deal. Yeah, because it was after we had gone to the draft already. So it's definitely after the Bridges deal. I think that it was right before free agency. So I was thinking like, oh, they probably just sent him to Phoenix to clear some cap space or something. Because that was when getting Hartenstein was still on the table and stuff. So either way, funny that he now is actually traded. I didn't tell that story strictly because I didn't want to be like raise any red flags if he did eventually get traded or whatever. But yeah, that was a fun little story from the summer. But yeah, he seems like a cool enough dude. I don't know. We took the same path. If you're curious, he rents cars at Avis just like everybody else. So a very relatable dude. And I hope that he has a good time in Milwaukee and hopefully find some utility there.
Yeah, he's always seemed like a very quiet, very chill, very, very nice guy, and good vibe. So in that sense, he will certainly be missed. I always, especially this year, viewed him as like a poor man's version of Mitchell Robinson, where he had very defined strengths and incredibly defined weaknesses. Like, to your point, switchable. Like, he became statistically one of the best rim protectors in all of basketball this year, an excellent offensive rebounder. The issue is, outside of those three skills, like there is just nothing else there that says he should be an NBA player. And the finishing and the offense, I think, regressed, if anything, over his 3 years, which, to your point, is never a good sign, but in particular is not a good sign when you come into the NBA at 24 years old, to the point where he would get the ball and he would just look completely lost. And it is just very hard to play a guy like that, even though he's also an excellent screen setter. That's the one thing I forgot. So I was a bigger fan than you were. I kind of advocated for him to play at times this year. I'm with you that even though as of today, and I bet you would disagree with this, I think he's probably a better player than Ariel Hukporti. I think Hukporti's upside is just dramatically higher, and he already shows that. Like in the time he's on the floor, he does positive things that Jericho Sims just cannot even approach. So I'm totally with the move, especially because Mitchell Robinson is on the brink of coming back. And on top of the report that Mitch is seemingly going to start practicing very soon. I don't know if he's quite taking contact yet, but he is starting practice, according to Ian Begley. Another good sign, I think, that Mitchell Robinson is going to be healthy. The main piece the Knicks get back in this deal is Delon Wright, that we were talking about it pre-show. I think even 2 years ago, I would have been very excited about this, and I would have seen it as a big steal. Which is ironically his best ability. He's been 90th percentile or over in terms of steal percentage, 9 of his 10 seasons in the NBA. The last 4 seasons, Alex, or the last 3 seasons, I should say, 99th percentile, 99th percentile. Last season, he split between Washington and Miami. He was 99th percentile in Miami, 100th percentile, or excuse me, 99th percentile in Washington, 100th percentile in Miami. He does it while essentially never fouling, 99th percentile in foul percentage. This season, in limited minutes, he's 82nd percentile in block percentage. So, and he is a really good offensive rebounder as well. So he brings some, similar to Jericho Sims, very defined skills to the table. But since you're more down on him than I am, I'll let you explain that there are some very defined weaknesses as well.
Yeah, I mean, the main thing is he just can't shoot this year. I mean, 26 games he's played so far this year, started 2, for Milwaukee. Clearly a guy I think that they thought that was going to be having a bigger role for them this year. Averaged just under 16 minutes a game, is shooting a robust 26.8% from the field this season, 24.5% from three. So not fantastic there. Even is shooting a really low 56.3% from the free throw line, which is just kind of bizarre too. I don't know, just something's not working for him this year, shooting the ball. Granted, last year and pretty much every year of his career, he shot right around 36-37% from three, at least for the last like 4 or 5 seasons, certainly. Prior to this one, that's been about his number on decent enough volume for a guy who's, kind of just a role player who's going to give you, anywhere between 10 to 20-ish minutes per game. So, I think there's a chance maybe, Tibbs will be attracted to that defense and the fact that, I mean, he is for once on this team an oversized guard, which is nice. He stands 6'5". So the Knicks are full of more diminutive point guards, and I think he puts up pretty good assist numbers, at least again for the minutes that he plays. I'm looking to see what his assist percentage is. Typically hovers around 20% assist percentage, which is solid. I'd say that's good for a combo guard off the bench, who can, at least in theory, score a little bit. That said, I don't know. I feel like just based off the returns for this year so far, maybe something's finally just gone wrong and he's washed at this point. I think it would be pretty tough for him to unseat Campaign, for example, who I think for all of his flaws this year has provided the Knicks with some pretty good minutes. And certainly the one thing that they really need sometimes is just a spark plug off the bench. And he's, especially in recent weeks, given them that a number of times. So I think it's tough sledding for Delon Wright to really find a role on this team, but maybe not impossible, and maybe a good little flyer for the Knicks to take. Either way, maybe he also just gets rerouted in some other deal. And in that case, it would be a pretty useful little chunk of salary to do that with, I guess. About $2 million that he makes, pretty much exactly what Jericho Sims was making.
Yeah, I'm a little bit more optimistic. I even though we're probably pretty close to the same place on him. Like I don't think he's breaking to the rotation anytime soon. I think Campaign, much to my surprise, has earned a spot and has largely been fantastic. I've been pleasantly surprised with his defense. I do think he's a nice tool to have in your toolbox for the playoffs. If you're playing the Cavs, and let's just say Darius Garland is cooking you, I mean, maybe you could fairly argue you're always just going to play Deuce McBride in that situation. He's going to be the guy to chase. But let's just say you have a bigger guard, even someone like Jaylen Brown, and you need to spare Mikal Bridges and OG Anunoby a few moments. He is not quite wing size, but at 6'5" with his defensive talents, it is just nice to have another tallish dude you can throw out there defensively. And I hear you on the shooting, but it is just such a small sample size because he hasn't played a ton this year. He's taken a total of 82 shots this season and 49 threes. And not the threes, but just the shots. That could be 3 games for Jalen Brunson. I'm sure Jalen Brunson, as a Knick, has had something approximating a 22 for 82 stretch. Obviously, I'm not arguing that Delon Wright is going to turn into Jalen Brunson. You might be right. He might be washed. The very fact that the Bucks are trading him suggests that he could plausibly be washed. But I'm going to choose to take an optimistic view here and say he's probably closer to the 45% shooter from the field, the 35% guy from three, and the 80% guy from the foul line he's been for the bulk of his career than the 27, 25, 56 splits he's had this season. And if he's just a little closer to that, if he's more 37% from the field and 32% from three, with his defense, I think there's a world in a specific matchup in the playoffs, or we know this is possible. If the Knicks have some injuries, he could step in, give you some decent minutes. I think it's a good trade for both teams because I think the Bucks needed a big athletic dude and the Knicks needed a bigger guard who could play some defense. So given that they didn't really give anything away of value since Sims wasn't going to play, I'm totally happy with it. But Alex, can they do something bigger? Is there a chance the Knicks still go big game hunting? We're going to talk about it in just a sec here on Locked On Knicks. Basketball season is heating up, and there's no better way to get on the action than with Prize Picks, the best place for daily fantasy sports. With over 10 million members and billions in awarded winnings, Prize Picks makes it easy and fun to turn your sports knowledge into real money. So here's how it works. You just pick more or less on at least 2-player projections, and if you're right, you can win up to 1,000 times your cash. 1,000 times. Prize Picks even has a free pick for the big game where Patrick Mahomes only needs to throw 1 yard to win. Pair that with one more correct pick, and you're cashing out. I'd say that's a pretty safe bet. This week, I'm looking to the Super Bowl. Right, I'm going to say Patrick Mahomes over 1 yard, Saquon Barkley over 115 yards. The best part, Prize Picks keeps it simple. You can set your lineup in less than 60 seconds, and with their fast, secure withdrawals, that means you get paid quickly when you win. Plus, their Taco Tuesday promo gives you discounted player projections for even more value. Check out the promos tab to tail any of the super sweet Millie winners big game lineups. If you tail a lineup that goes 3 for 3, you can win a split of $1 million in promo funds. So download the app today. Use code LOCKEDONNBA to get $50 off instantly when you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNBA for $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game.
Maybe this is aiming a little too high, Gavin. But the one deal that I would still kind of cross my fingers and toes for, even though it would mean separating from a guy who I genuinely love having as a Knick and have for his entire time. He's been very entertaining both on and off the court. But the deal that I would be looking at and saying, if they could just get that done, that would be sweet, would be Mitchell Robinson somehow for Austin Reeves. And the somehow there is, look, LeBron isn't getting any younger. And I understand that the Lakers just made the heist of the century and got Luka Doncic, which still hasn't quite settled in just yet. But, you know, they're probably still going to try to maximize LeBron's window. So even though they're kind of paying lip service now to, well, we checked the market, but there just weren't any bigs available, la-di-da, like, I guess we'll just have to wait till the summer. Like, I don't think that's how they really feel. I think that they're going to still be actively looking to add a big to their team tomorrow because they have a clear gaping hole for that. And honestly, I mean, if you add a Mitchell Robinson to that mix and, you know, it's maybe a little more palatable to lose an Austin Reeves now that you have Luka Doncic, obviously, who's going to soak up, you know, hopefully 35, 40 minutes for you, especially in the playoffs. Like, you'll probably have him playing 40 plus minutes. It makes an Austin Reeves a lot less necessary, I guess. You know, if that's the case, like, and they think that adding a Mitchell Robinson to that mix and having Mitch out there to play defense and catch lobs from two of the best passers of all time, maybe they go for it. You know, maybe it takes the Knicks sending out the Washington, like, pseudo first round pick, you know, whatever, the one that's like still very heavily protected and I think is more likely to convey as 2 second rounders. You know, maybe that's enough to get it done. The Lakers would also have to send out a little bit more salary. I think, ironically, Cam Reddish would be a guy that would make a lot of sense there. I think we're seeing through these deals that are going down so far that, like, the importance of dumping ground teams has never been higher. So some Utah or something would take, you know, a second round pick from LA, or the Knicks would, you know, pay to make it to facilitate that or whatever. And, you know, make sure to get that extra salary off the books so that neither team would be accepting more money than they were sending out, which both teams would have to adhere to. But that's a deal I'm looking at possibly to surprise us tomorrow. But I don't think it's super likely. I mean, Reeves is having a fantastic year. I mean, I think he's averaging like 18 points a game. Like, he could do so much on the floor. He gives you good defense. He gives you good offense now that's only getting better. Like, he's clearly a rising guy and could very easily, you could just be like, oh, he'll just be still a starter or a 6-man now with the Lakers or whatever and still give them plenty of utility. But, you know, a man can dream. I think that would be a really good deal. Really, really good deal for the Knicks, but also fill a pretty big hole for the Lakers. Whether they think that it's worth taking that chance on Mitch for that or not is up to them. But, you know, I think it would be maybe worth a shot, and definitely worth a call for Leon, if nothing else.
Yeah, I'm with you. And I've seen other people mention that as an outline. I think my only issue with feasibility is, like, if in a world where Joel Embiid doesn't pull Mitchell Robinson out of the air and he was having the same season he looked like he was going to have last season, where he appeared to be the best offensive rebounder on planet Earth, a top 10 defender to top 15 defender in the entire NBA. You get that version of Mitchell Robinson. I think there's a pretty compelling case that you make the Lakers better with that deal. I have a feeling at this point, given how, at least offensively, how great of a season Austin Reeves has had in the way he's continued to develop as a shooter, as a playmaker, they would set their sights a little higher and go for either Walker Kessler or Nick Claxton. To be clear, I'm not saying those guys are necessarily better than Mitchell Robinson is at his absolute best. Mitch is just such an injury risk at this point that I think his value around the league is a little bit down. He does have that descending contract, which sweetens the deal just a tiny bit for other teams trying to trade for him, especially the Lakers, who are going to be, at least as long as LeBron is on the books, a little pressed for money around Luka Doncic and want to save money for his extension. So there's an argument for it. I would be really interested in that trade-off. I'd be a little red. My only hesitation is that Reeves is just like another really poor defender, but I think the offense is so good, and he obviously wouldn't maybe he would start over Josh Hart. I don't know. It's an interesting one for both teams. I have a feeling the Lakers would go for Claxton or Kessler if they're willing to move off of Reeves. I have an even stronger feeling that they want to see what the team looks like with Austin Reeves on it, especially considering LeBron's age, right? Like you want to have that long-term second or third banana for Luka Doncic. I'll throw out one other big crazy name that won't happen, and then we can finish up with some quick hitters. Kevin Durant for OG Anunoby and Mitchell Robinson comes within $200,000 of working. We just talked it through. The Knicks would have to reroute Delon Wright to a third team. I think the Pistons are the one team I know is definitely under the cap, so that would be doable if they wanted a defensive guard. Now, why would the Suns do this? Well, they just telegraphed that they were willing to trade Kevin Durant until he said he did not want to go to Golden State. So there were probably some bad feelings there at this point. I don't think he's long to stay in Phoenix. I think they're delaying the inevitable. He's probably going to get dealt this summer. I think at the end of the day, Phoenix will prioritize younger players. And like, if I were them, getting their own picks back from the Houston Rockets would be a very big deal. But Anunoby is obviously younger. He's exactly on Devin Booker's timeline. Mitchell Robinson, if you maybe undercount the injuries a little bit, is on Devin Booker's timeline. And it would keep them competitive. I think that is a stretch for someone in Kevin Durant, who is still a top 12 player in the league, and the Knicks just don't have the draft capital to make something like that happen. But I thought I would mention it in case Phoenix is really crazy and they just don't want to trade him within the West.
Yeah, I mean, we say if they're crazy, but I think we're seeing the star market is not what it once was at this point.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we've seen now another trade broke as we've been doing this, where Brandon Ingram has now been traded as well. So,
wow.
Yeah, so for less than you might think, we'll get into that in next segment. But yeah, as far as the idea of Durant, I mean, just from a pure basketball perspective, obviously it makes a lot of sense. Like, I think you're losing obviously some of the defense, just Durant being at the age that he's at and everything is not quite the defender that OG Anunoby is at this point in his life, where he's kind of in the prime of his life and prime.
And Durant's never been as good as OG on that end, though. He's been great on that. I think he should have made all defense a couple of years, but
yeah, he's had. I mean, especially like prime Golden State years. I mean, he was I think very underrated as a defender in those years. Yeah. So I mean, he has some defensive chops, but obviously one of the most offensively talented players of all time. And you then have a lineup where you could argue three of the best offensive players in the entire NBA in your starting lineup, plus a Mikal Bridges, plus a Josh Hart, if that's who you stick with in the starting lineup for defense. I mean, it would just be, and just lots of different machinations you could go with that way. Makes a ton of sense basketball wise. I don't know that they would go for it just because this Knicks team has been so carefully curated with who they bring in here and who they trust to be part of this team and not create issues. There's obviously been quotes from Josh Hart about keeping egos in check this year or whatever, but there's been nothing really enough to like escape the locker room and make headlines or anything. And I think you lose that with bringing Kevin Durant in. I mean, he's a drama factory. He just comes in and just basically burns anywhere he goes to the ground at this point in his career. I think it's fairly safe to say that, considering that he goes there, he spends a couple years and then forces his way out. how many more years does he have left? Who knows? So maybe the
Yeah, I
Knicks
guess
would be the last place.
in his defense, Phoenix tried to trade him this time. He didn't ask to be traded, as far as I know.
Yeah, there's been rumblings though about
I remember
all the guys.
last year he wasn't happy. So
Yeah, I mean, there's already been rumblings about him not being happy, and maybe it's just that they were trying to build a team around him, which led down the path to where they are now, where they're just horribly mediocre despite spending all this money and resources on this team. But I don't know. It just seems like calamity follows him. Let's put it that way.
oh,
Even if
uh,
he
sorry to interrupt you. One other note that negates the Austin Reeves part of this conversation. The Lakers just traded Dalton Connect, Cam Reddish, and a 2031 first round pick for Mark Williams. So the Knicks will not be getting Austin Reeves for Mitchell Robinson.
damn, we really tried. We're really trying to get ahead of things, and we're recording at like
Stayed
midnight
up late.
still.
Yeah.
Oh well. All right. Let's just go to the next segment and react to what's happened already.
Yeah.
So next segment, we're going to talk about the deals that have already happened. We'll talk about the Jimmy Butler deal. We'll talk about the Kyle Kuzma deal. Talk about the Brandon Ingram deal, which is broken during this. Maybe we'll talk about apparently this Mark Williams deal that is just also broken. So yeah, whatever. We'll talk about it all next on Locked On Knicks. Super Bowl 59 is here. One game, two teams, endless possibilities, and there's no better way to make every play more exciting than with FanDuel Sportsbook. Whether it's predicting the first touchdown, calling the MVP, or even betting on the coin toss, FanDuel makes it easy to get in on the action. Let me tell you, I found a bet that I found to be really interesting, betting on if the final score will have already happened in Super Bowl history or not. That intrigued me. So I might be placing that bet myself. With live betting all game long, you can adjust your bets as the game unfolds and feel the thrill from kickoff to the final whistle. The live betting feature lets you stay involved no matter what happens on the field, and the app is super easy to navigate. Plus, knowing that you can place a $5 bet and potentially win $200 in bonus bets for the Super Bowl, that's the icing on the cake. So download the app or head over to FanDuel.com to get started. Bet just $5, and if you win, you'll score $200 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com. Bet with FanDuel, official partner of Super Bowl 59. All right, Gavin, we're back in, and my Mitchell Robinson dreams, or rather Austin Reeves dreams, were crushed in the last segment. So let's see if we can get overridden at some point here in the final, 7-8 minutes of the show while we discuss what's already happened in the NBA today. So first deal of the day. You know what? Never mind. Screw the first deal. I want to talk about the second deal. Jimmy Butler goes to the Warriors. What did you think about that deal? It was Andrew Wiggins, a protected pick that'll most likely convey this year. Other pieces who I'm forgetting. They sent a whole bunch of guys to a whole bunch of different places. Dennis Schroeder, Kyle Anderson, I think one other dude, to various places but not Miami, because none of them want to go to Miami apparently. The deal was broken to Kevin Love live courtside by a fan. That was kind of cool. A little video went viral of that where a fan was telling Kevin Love the full details of the trade from his seat at the game. But the Warriors get Jimmy Butler. I don't know. I feel like it's a pretty solid deal for them. I think it's a chance worth taking, especially considering Steph isn't going anywhere. They're not going to trade him. I don't think he wants to be traded at any point. I think he wants to retire a Warrior. So you may as well just do right by him and give it one last go, however you can.
Yeah, I mean, look, they've botched the second run around Steph so badly, and I think that
have they got a championship out of it.
Well, hold on. Let me caveat this.
Okay,
they got lucky with Durant. That worked out really well. Maybe they win a few more anyways, but they get lucky with Durant, and then I think they just got really lucky with how the 22 playoffs broke, because I don't know. I look back on that team, it was, for one, just an out of body experience for Andrew Wiggins. He's never played that well before. He's never played close to as well since. It was like something overtook him and he just cooked at exactly the right time. Draymond had just enough left in the tank. Steph was just extraordinary. I think that run proves his bona fides more than any other in his career. And I think people would have underrated him historically, because they would have been well, he got that first title where LeBron had everyone hurt. Then LeBron beat him, and then he had KD, and he wasn't even the best player on his team. So 2022, that was Steph. I'll give him that. But they've been doing this 2 timeline BS, and they had the second pick, and they take James Wiseman over LaMelo Ball. Whatever you want to say about LaMelo Ball, they would have been dramatically better off with him than James Wiseman, who's off the team in 2 years. And then since that run in 2022, they've just been hesitant to go all in, and they make this move for Jimmy Butler. Great. I think it's like a year or two too late. I was going through it with my friends. Like, I'll pull the list up now. Like my championship contenders, to me, like, I think they maybe win a first round series out of this would be my main takeaway. I do not have them as a top 9. I would have in order Boston, Oklahoma City, Cleveland, New York, Denver, Dallas, the Lakers, who I would shoot up over Dallas after they got Mark Williams, Memphis, Houston, and then I would have Golden State, Minnesota, and the Clippers, like all in one tier. Maybe I'm slightly underrating it. I just think they've been a crappy team since that really hot start to the year. That was unsustainable. It was because Buddy Hield was making 70% of his threes. Like, I think Jimmy helps them. I think they could definitely win a first round series. I just think Steph has passed the point and Jimmy's passed the point where they are like number one guys on a championship team. So they'll be better. I don't think they're a championship contender all of a sudden.
Yeah, I don't think so either. To be clear, I don't think this like propels them into championship contention.
Yeah.
I just think that at the end of the day, they didn't really give up too much of worth.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, no, it's a solid trade. Yeah.
Yeah, where it's just like, just give it a shot. You know, I don't know. I don't think they're gonna win much. Like you said, maybe they win a first round series, but then again, probably a lot of people didn't think they were gonna win in 21-22 either. Like, sometimes all it takes is just a really hot run. And honestly, you have kind of two of the kings of hot playoff runs on your team now with Steph Curry and Jimmy Butler, who has dragged an 8 seed to the finals before. So maybe, I don't know, maybe there's some more magic left there. I can't say for certain that I think it's going to happen, but I still thought it was a good trade for Golden State at the end of the day. Early in the day, this one dominated the office news cycle at my job today, because I came in and the deal had just gone down and everybody's like, what the heck just happened? Kyle Kuzma to the Bucks in exchange for Chris Middleton. That's the most of the bona fides of the deal that really need discussing. I don't know. Maybe I think I'm in the minority on this one. I didn't totally hate it for Milwaukee. I just think Middleton just can't stay on the court anymore. I mean, that's the biggest issue. Seems like every single year. I mean, they've been burned every year except for the year that they won the championship. Lately, it's just like you're just always waiting for this guy to get healthy, and then he gets healthy, and then he plays 20 games, then he gets hurt again. And you know, I think there's only so long you can go on with that when you have this ticking clock of Giannis Antetokounmpo on your team, and you know, with how stars are moving now, I don't want to take any chances if I'm the Bucks. Like, you know, apparently he gave the cosign on Kyle Kuzma. That's enough for me. If I'm Bucks management and I'm the Bucks GM, I'm like, okay, you like him? Absolutely. Let's get that guy over here. Like, if it takes Chris Middleton, what the heck ever. Like, you know, Middleton's not really giving you much anyway. Now, I know this probably makes me a hypocrite because Kuzma is shooting horrendous this year and has really been bad. But with him, given the level of talent that he is, you know, versus like a Delon Wright, and given what their respective ages are and everything else, I feel a little more confident in him bouncing back, especially on a team with something to play for. You know, he's also had a couple of kind of inopportune like injuries this year where it's like he played a few games, got injured for 5 games, played a few more games, got injured for like 10 or 11 games or something, and then has been, you know, kind of trying to get his groove since then. Hopefully playing in a better offense with Dame Lillard, with Giannis Antetokounmpo. I mean, that makes him the solid third option. And I mean, we've seen him as about that role on a team that won the championship before. So, you know, maybe that's just kind of what Milwaukee's looking at and saying, hey, this might not exactly be LeBron and AD, but you know, it's something similar, sort of. So we're gonna just give it a shot and see if we can make it work with Kuzma. I don't totally hate the deal. I thought it was a fine stab to take for them.
Yeah, I'll join you in the minority. I'm with you. I love Chris Middleton as a player. He is still just an exceptional shot maker and feels like a throwback in a lot of ways, in that obviously he can finish the rim, obviously he can shoot the 3, but is just a mid-range assassin and has the type of game that I don't want to say is dying out, but like, I don't know, like his just like level of skill, like operating out of a triple threat, like you just don't see that for opposing wings quite as often anymore. So I'm a big fan, but you can't bank on his health at this point. His defense is not nearly where it was. And we saw Kyle Kuzma on the Lakers. It was a long time ago now, 4 years ago, 5 years ago. Like, he was a third banana on a championship team, and he was a really good defender, and he made enough shots, and he was tough, and he's like a bigger body, and it gives them someone to throw at Jalen Brunson. And like, not that like Kyle Kuzma's locking up Jalen Brunson, or like if someone was like, yeah, Kuzma's on Brunson tonight, I would do the LeBron like meme. But like, it's better than what they had, and like anything for them to get a little bit more athletic, a little bit stronger, a little bit bigger on the perimeter. He's sucked this year, but he sucked as a number one guy on with almost, or number two guy next to Jordan Poole, where defenses can double team him, and that's never going to happen in Milwaukee. So I think it's a good trade. It makes them slightly more intimidating for me. I still think they're a pretty good matchup for the Knicks, all said and done. Alex, I don't know if you had anyone else you wanted to go over. I just wanted to note, we went over guys like Keon Ellis, Jake LaRavia, Dante Exum, and a few other names with Jeremy Cohen on a podcast we did late last week. So if you missed that, you can circle back if you want to hear both the feasibility and like our opinions on guys like that. But outside of that, I think we pretty much have it all covered. And this might be some cursed final words here, but I think beyond the Sims trade, it is going to be a quiet deadline for the New York Knicks.
Yeah, I guess I'll just say that the last deal that we didn't discuss, Brandon Ingram to, since it's in Division 2, no less.
Sure.
Brandon Ingram to the Raptors for Bruce Brown, Kelly Olynyk, 1 first-round pick, 1 second-rounder. Happy to see Kelly Olynyk not in division anymore, even though the Knicks had already escaped him for the year. And I think the Knicks have to play the Pels. Do they have to play the Pels one more time? Are they done with them?
No, I think we only played them. It was the one game where Brunson went off, right? But outside of that, we haven't played them. So I think they go there once.
One more Kelly Olynyk game. Man, I hate that guy.
He tortures Precious Achiuwa. So hopefully Mitch out there for that match.
That's just really annoying. He's got a really annoying face. Anyway, I don't know. Yeah. But so that deal happened. I thought it was fine for both sides, to be completely honest. Although I guess I don't fully understand it for the Raptors. I don't quite know what they're cooking up there, but I guess we'll see. We'll see what kind of soup they make. The Knicks won't have to face them until next year anyway, so they could do whatever it is they want. I got nothing else to add on other guys for the Knicks to go after. I think it's probably more than likely that they're either quiet or do something enormous, but I don't know if there's going to be like a margin move at this point, especially with the Lakers having found their new big. So yeah, we'll see, but I'm not super, I'm not going to hold my breath for the Knicks to make any sort of big deal at the deadline outside of this Jericho Sims deal. I think they're probably starting to look forward to getting Mitchell Robinson back and playing. Maybe I'll eat those words tomorrow by around 3:30 p.m. I guess we'll see, but no matter what, we'll have that covered for you guys, as well as if they don't do anything, we'll just talk about that too. And we'll talk about what goes on around the league, whether it's a good idea for the Knicks to stay put, whatever. We got plenty of content coming for you guys. So till next time, thank you all for listening, and we'll talk to you soon. Peace out, everybody.